Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. Today we're going to go over a few more board attacks, a couple of surfboard attacks, a boogie board attack. We will go over a dive, a quick dive to test out some equipment that goes wrong. And at the end of the show we'll go over and do a segment of what were you thinking. And before we get to that, I will have an update on the stores. Both stores are now open back up now that I'm back here in Michigan. And I'll let you know how I inadvertently or unknowingly, I say, ate shark over the weekend. So stick with me, got a good show. Okay, we're going to start out the show over at Lennox Head, and that is in New South Wales, Australia, and the date is October 12th of 1975. Barry Neale is 20 years old. He is out doing some surfing. He's amongst other surfers, and they don't say what time, distance from shore, or depth. He's got to be in the shallows because he just brought a wave in, and he dumped off the board in the shallows, got back on, and started paddling back out. Shortly after he started paddling back out, shark came up and grabbed his board, grabbed it right in front of where his face would be lying. He said if he was still paddling when the shark came up, it would have bit his face. So it would have bit right into his face if he was laying there, but he was actually leaning his head up to watch a buddy coming in on a wave. So that kept him from having his face where the board is. Now the board disappears under the water, he's in the water, and when the board pops up, it has a huge chunk missing from the front of the board where his head would normally be. And he gets on the board with his friend over with him, and they take the wave in, but they were surprised that the shark didn't come back and attack him again. I'm kind of surprised too. I didn't know, whether this is more or less. I don't think that tiger sharks are territorial in the way that great whites are, but it seems like maybe the bronze whaler might be. It's the same type of an attack on a boarder where it doesn't care whether it bites him or the board, it just takes the bite. In this case, just one bite and took the board under. A lot of times it gets hold of the person's leg and the board, and it drags the person off of the board and holds them under. But the same type of an attack that we have from numerous attacks we've covered from the great whites, we'll put it down as an attack, not an attempt to predate by a bronze whaler shark. We're going to head over to Sugarloaf Rock, and that is in Port St. John, South Africa. The date, May 2nd of 2015. Mathieu Dasnois, he is 29 years old, and he wants to do some diving. He just wants to test a new dive mask that he had bought. And he's out in the water. They're in about 13 feet of water, and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, no telling how far from shore. And he dives into the water. And the first time he surfaces, he's about 25 yards now from the boat, and he goes to dive down again. Now, when he's diving down again, the people on the boat can see that there's a large shark heading straight for him. So they start up the boat trying to get over there, but the shark gets there first. Now, Mathieu is trying to fend off the shark with his hands. There's a 14-foot great white that came charging at him. He gets both of his hands with deep gashes in them, and his left arm gets bit up pretty bad. Now the boat is getting over to him, and it's almost on him when the shark grabs him by the foot and starts swimming away with him, dragging him away from the boat. Matthew's able to get his foot out of the shark's mouth and pops to the surface. The boat gets there just in time to get in between the shark and Mathieu. The shark had made another pass. It was coming at him again, and the boat got in the way, and they were able to get Mathieu up. They got him in to help. He had both of his hands had defensive wounds. He had wounds to his leg. His left foot and his left leg were pretty badly mangled, but he ended up being stitched up and survived the attack. Like I said, it was a 14-foot great white. For it to attack him 3 times like that, I think if that boat wasn't there, we wouldn't have Mathieu with us. So good thing he was with the boat. They were able to get in between him and that shark that 3rd time, because it only takes one bite from one of these things. I'm going to put this down as an attack and an attempt to predate by the fact that it was making a 3rd run at him. The 2nd time it grabbed him, it was just going to swim off with him. So, if nobody was there or he was by himself, he probably would not be here, and it's a good thing he was. Put it down as an attack and attempt to predate by a 14-foot great white shark. Now we head over to the Florida Keys. We're going to go off of Key Colony Beach, and the date is July 26th of 1999. Michael Knowles, he is 43 years old. He is out, and he is out doing some hunting of lobsters. So they're in a boat. They're going around. They're 2 miles off of shore, and it's 6:30 at night. And they don't say how deep the water is, but Michael sees a pod of dolphins in the water, and he dives into the water with them. As soon as he hits the water and gets in there, he can see a bull shark coming up at him. And he goes ahead and he kicks the bull shark. I believe he kicked it with his right foot. Well, while he was kicking that shark, another shark bit him in the left leg. So it was a case, these bull sharks hang out, especially the size, a 7-foot bull shark. The other one was probably around the same size, but the one that bit him was 7 feet long, bit him in the leg and just released. It doesn't sound like it shook him at all. He got up into the boat and he got taken in. He had 5 1-inch long lacerations in his legs, teeth going in and out. Sounds like he, dove right in on top of the sharks, which we've had that happen in a couple of cases. Thaddeus Kabinski off the back in his canal. We've had the person that dove in and landed on a tiger shark, and it ended up biting him 4 times. It's just bad news when you land on a shark like that, and that's their reaction, is to bite. They get startled, they're going to turn, and that's all they can do is bite you. Probably what happened here, especially since it grabbed and didn't shake, didn't tear, just bit and let go. It was probably as startled as he was to see him in the water, for him to see them on him. So luckily he only gets the little teeth marks in his leg, and they're able to sew that up, and he survives. We're going to put it down as an attack, not an attempt to predate by a 7-foot bull shark. Now we're going to head to Buffalo's Bay. That is Western Cape Province, South Africa. The date on this is June 27th of 2015. Caleb Swanepoel, he's 19 years old. He and a friend and his brother are out doing some bodyboarding. It's 2:30 in the afternoon, no telling distance from shore, depth of water. But sounds like the 3 of them are waiting on a wave when they notice that there's a shark on the way. Now, nobody else that's on the beach, there's a lot of others on the beach and in the water, but they don't notice this shark until after the first attack. But they see a shark coming at them, so all 3 of them start paddling as fast as they can to shore. And Caleb says he said to himself, well, I have a bad feeling something bad's going to happen. And just as he said that to himself, the shark grabbed him by the foot and pulled him into the water. Now, he says he was helplessly beating on the shark. It actually had him by the leg, around the knee, and he's beating on the shark, and he says he felt something disconnect. He didn't feel any pain. There was nothing. He just felt that something had just disconnected from his body. That was as the shark took his leg. Now his brother and his brother's friend get over, and they're pulling his wetsuit to get him in, and the shark returns. And the shark returns, and now this is when they raise the alarm, because now the people are seeing that the kids are in the middle. There's 3 kids in the middle. The shark is circling them twice before it makes this attack. But the witness said that they were splashing, so they're trying to scare the shark away by doing probably the worst thing you're going to do, is splashing. And the shark makes another run, and there's 3 of them right there, but it's making the run at the first victim again, and it comes in and bites him in the left leg. So his right leg has been severed just below the knee, I believe it is. Now it's bit him in the left leg. The brother is trying to help fend the shark off. The shark bit his swim fin, so barely missing the tip of his foot. Bit the swim fin off just past where his foot is. So it not only bit Caleb in the leg, it bit his brother's swim fin off before they were able to get them into shore. Others had came over and helped them get in. Caleb ended up losing his leg, his right leg below the knee, bad lacerations to the left leg, and some defensive wounds to his hand. He ends up surviving. A very small shark, and very odd for a small shark to make that many runs. And them splashing in the middle of the water, that doesn't help the situation. But again, if there was nobody there to help him out of the water, I think the shark would have finished the job. I'm going to put this down as an attack, an attempt to predate by, they say, a 7 to 10 foot great white shark. I head over to Newcastle, which is New South Wales, Australia. The date, March 22nd, 1918. Arthur Cook, he is out doing some surfing, and he's with 15 other surfers. So the water is filled with surfers. It's shortly before 6 o'clock in the evening, and he's in 3 feet deep water, and he's waiting on a wave when suddenly a shark grabs his right elbow and tries to pull him off of his board, and he's able to resist that, but then it grabs his hand and pulls him off the board. So now he's been bit in the elbow and bit in the hand, pulled off the board, and the shark releases him. He's able to get on the board and get back into the shore with help. They get to him, his hand is bitten in half, and I don't know, it sounds like it took fingers and half the hand, the way that they talk. Otherwise they would have said it took his fingers, but they said it bit his hand in half, so his right hand's bit in half, and his right arm, elbow, and arm is just mangled. So they ended up, it's 1918, they ended up having to go ahead and amputate his arm. And they set up a fund. This is 1918. They set up a fund to collect monies to make a prosthetic arm for him. The fund works out. He gets the arm. It's made of wood, but this was the most interesting thing about the attack. They had it so that the pressure from his arm, from his shoulder, would make his arm go forward. The arm would turn side to side, and it actually had finger use. So for 1918, that's kind of crazy that they had that already made up for people to be able to use that lose a limb. I mean, you lose limbs other ways, so they had to deal with it for all sorts of things, not just shark attacks, but it's just amazing how much they had gotten done up to 1918 for prosthetic limbs. So that's our story of Arthur Cook. An attack, not an attempt to predate. They said this was a great white shark, or they said they don't know what type of shark. This was a 12-foot shark. They don't know what type. You know, it's hard to speculate over there. It could be, you know, bull shark, tiger shark, bronze whaler shark. Those are all probably the most prevalent that you'd have to run into there. So we'll put it down as an attack, not an attempt to predate. We don't know what kind of shark. Okay, now we're going to head over to Maroochydore Beach, and that's Queensland, Australia. The date, July 26, 1975. Gary Grace, he and his brother Michael, and it sounds like a friend or two are out doing some surfing. They're 300 yards from shore. Sounds like they're waiting on a wave, and Gary is suddenly grabbed by a shark. All that Michael says is that he and his friend, they heard a terrific splash and turned around, and they heard Gary scream. They could see a tail, a huge tail up over their head as the shark took Gary and a surfboard under. And it had him under, and it spit out the board first, and it sounds like it kept biting on Gary, and then finally spit him out, and then it swam off. They were able to get Gary and bring him in. He was bitten in the buttocks, both legs, and one of his arms, probably defensive wound on the arm. And the shark did a number on him. It doesn't sound like it removed any flesh. They were able to sew him back up. So they didn't say anything about skin grafts or anything like that. You know, sounds like it's one of those territorial attacks. They said the shark was 12 feet long, and they don't know what kind of species. So we're going to put this down for Gary Grace as an attack, not an attempt to predate. We don't know what kind of shark, 12 feet long. Okay, now before we get into our final segment of the show, what were you thinking? Got a couple things to go over. The first thing is I got back here from Florida probably last week, a week ago or so. I've been busy doing some things, but I got back and I got this gift. This is from Bonnie over in Arizona, one of our viewers, and she made me up this cup, this mug. It's got the logo on it and my name, and it's got this awesome, the Champagne of Sharks, as my boy Anthony Jeselnik calls the great whites, the Champagne of Sharks. So this is an awesome mug. I got an awesome mug, but that's not all. She also sent me a coaster with the Champagne of Sharks on it, and then 2 inserts for my cup holders in my Camaro. So these are awesome. And then it came with a nice little note, Bonnie, these are excellent. I just love this. I can't wait to use them, and I wanted to show everybody, thank you so much for this and for the kind note. I love that. The next thing we got to get into is the stores. Both are now online. My normal store, sharkshappen.com, has the gear that you see on that site on my website. Now my Etsy store, if you wanted to get to that, you'd have to type in sharkshappen2, T-O-O, so sharkshappen2.etsy.com. That takes you right to my new store. This is one of the shirts, but it's changed up. Right now this is my red logo here, and I have the yellow on here, and then I have the writing of the ending of the show is on the back. I changed it all to yellow. So this is going to be yellow, and I raised it up a little bit. This is yellow, and then this is going to be yellow there. So this is the first all-over print shirt that I have. A little comment on it. This is a large shirt, and it fits me. I wear large shirts. It's a 81% polyester, 19% spandex. This is clingy stuff. It's like form-fitting. So I have a large. I like my stuff to fit a little bit loose. So I'm going to get me an extra large of the one that I just did in the yellow. So this is kind of, I just wanted to make sure, you can't even feel that this has been printed on. I mean, it's crazy. It's very soft, they're called rash guard. It's an excellent material, but it's got that spandex quality to it. So if you like your clothes to fit loose like me, you might want to up a size if you're getting one of these rash guard shirts. Here's the hat. Here's one of the hats that I had ordered, that, you know, just a regular hat. So that's on the store. You're going to see multiple shirts. You're going to see women's shirts, you're going to see unisex shirts, and you're going to see men's shirts. I'm trying to get men's and women's of everything. The thing is where they're shipped from. So you might pay more for shipping for some of the stuff than you will for others, depending on whether they print it there or not. I'm trying to pick items that will print in your area, so that, you know, I'm looking for UK, Australia, Spain. They have all these different, Latvia, they have all these different countries that they actually print and ship from, which holds the shipping costs down, which is exactly what we wanted to do here. So I have all kinds of things on there. I have I'm still waiting on a jacket. So right now I got this long sleeve shirt, I got the hat, I ordered myself one of the polo shirts, a golf shirt. I ordered myself the jacket. I have what they call a bomber jacket, and you have sharks happen down the sleeve, attempt to predate down the other sleeve. You have a picture of a great white and blue water on the back, and then the logo on the front, but it's a different logo. It's kind of in color. It's a cool looking jacket. I can't wait to get that. I got a zip up hoodie that I have upstairs. It's thinner than I thought, but it's really nice, and the printing is really nice too. I love the print that's being done for that. So I got all those. I'm still waiting on the puzzle. I've made up 2 puzzles right now. Both have great white sharks on them, 520 piece puzzles. So there's a couple puzzles. There's some mugs, there's a towel, there's a flag, there's dad hats, trucker hat, there's a bucket hat, like a fishing hat. I love those, so I'm going to get me one of those. We went on our honeymoon out to Rockport, Massachusetts, and we went over to Gloucester, and I bought myself one of those green fishing hats like that, and I wore it for years. I just love those. So there's some stuff on there. If you see something that you want, or you see something that isn't there, just mention it, because with the print on demand, it's not very difficult to go ahead and add something to my store. Right now I'm going with just one supplier, which is Printful. To me, they have the best quality as far as the companies that are out there, and I was looking for that over anything else, kind of like with the stuff I made up. So that's the story of the 2 stores. I will put links in the descriptions of the video and see if I can't add it to all the videos so that it'll be there, but I'll put both the links there. And sharkshappen.com is going to have the stuff that you can get here in the US shipped at a reasonable price. Sharks Happen 2 is going to be for you to be able to get my stuff worldwide for shipping at a reasonable price. It does take a little while to get there, maybe 7 to 10 days once you order. They have to go ahead and print it up and then ship it out to you, but it'll be taken care of like that. So that's taken care of. Now, an announcement, February 25th and 26th of 2023. So the end of February next year, down in the Keys, they have this nautical flea market, and it's a bunch of booths that are supposed to have to do with, you know, fishing and boats. And I'm going to be there. My father and I are going to split a booth. He's got his rigs, Captain Hal's rigs. He makes deep drop lines and other rigs that he'll sell. And I'm going to have my pens, hats, and shirts there that I'll be selling. So for 2 days I'll be down there in the Keys there. If anybody wants to come down and get something without having to pay shipping costs and maybe have a little conversation, that's fine with me. I'd love to see you there. So 25th and 26th of February, that's where I'll be. Another thing is the 29th of this month. That's next week. I'm going to be on Chatting with Betsy. It is a podcast where, from what I see, it started out, Betsy, her husband had Alzheimer's. Oh man, it's just such a tough story to even think about it. But she started her little podcast explaining her experiences going through this with her husband with this late stage Alzheimer, and it just branched out from there. And she's kind of like a podcast, kind of like probably Joe Rogan, where something interests her, she wants to talk about it. She saw the show, she was interested, she contacted me, wanted to do an interview. It's going to be over the phone interview, but I will be interviewed, so I'll be on Chatting with Betsy on the 29th of this month. So other than that, I think we've covered everything I wanted to go over right now, except for the story of how I inadvertently ate shark. Got back here from Florida. My wife, before I left for Florida, so we're talking a month ago, just before I left, her and her family, her sisters and I think nieces and nephews, they all went to Tennessee to hang out in Gatlinburg, I think it was. Well, while they were there, Stan is my niece Caitlin's boyfriend, and Stan had me for Christmas, our Christmas drawing, and he actually got me this orca, the picture of the boys on the boat. So that's where I got that picture, was from Christmas, from Stan. Well, Stan and Caitlin decided to buy me some beef jerky. Now Mickey says that, my wife Mickey, she says she told me on the phone that it was shark. I mean, we're talking a month ago. So I get home and I'm here over the weekend, over this past weekend, probably Friday, and she's out doing some running around. We had a wedding birthday party we had to attend to on Saturday. So she's doing some running around. I'm in the house, having my pop, watching TV, and I want something to snack on. Normally I have a bunch of Better Made Red Hot chips around. Well, I had none. So I go into the cupboard and I'm looking and I see this bag of jerky, this little package of jerky. So I grab the package of jerky and I look at it, and it says shark on the front, shark jerky, and it's got shark on there. So I take and I open this bag. Now, like I said, she's not here. I open the bag, and the first thing that hits me is the smell. I'm like, what in the hell is this? And it just, I don't like the smell of any jerky when you open the bag, but this was extremely putrid for even jerky. I was like, what? So I took a piece and I took a little bite, and it tasted like it smelled. It was not good. So I take and I throw this whole bag away. I just took it and threw it away, not wanting anybody else to have to go through this bad beef jerky. So my wife finally gets home and I'm watching TV, and finally I turn to her and I say, hey, and I get my face, that little girl face, and beef jerky was not good. I had to throw that, and she just starts cracking up. She says, I told you it was shark. I said, she didn't tell me it was shark, so she has to call her nephew, her niece up, and tell her that I ate part of that jerky and how disgusting it was. So she got a good kick out of that. But like I said, I unknowingly ate shark, because if you tell me a month ago, when you're out of town and I'm here waiting to go out of town to the Keys, that you bought some shark jerky and it's actually shark, I'm not going to remember that a month later. And I don't know that it was ever divulged, disclosed that it was actual shark. I think she's just called it jerky. But she got a big kick out of that, and I'll tell you, shark is not to be eaten. So that's everything I wanted to go over, and we'll get to the end of the show. Okay, now we're going to finish off the show with What Were You Thinking? Back in 1904 in Queensland, Australia, the Waikato is the name of the steamer. George Grant, he was on the steamer and his hat blew off. It sounds like the steamer has to be sitting still. It has to be docked or harbored or just anchored or not moving. It's not under power, because he's going to swim out to get his hat. His hat blows off. He swims out and gets his hat, and he's swimming back to the steamer when the people on the steamer see him throw up his arms, and he disappears under the water. He was never seen again. All over a hat. I mean, what are you thinking? You can get a new hat. I mean, if this hat blows off into that water when I'm out on a boat, you think I'm going in that water to get this hat? No, knowing that there's not that many sharks down there, but then again, there is a lot of sharks down there, and they have been attacking. There's been a couple attacks down in the Keys later. One of them just before I got there or maybe it was when I was there, but a diver was down in Marathon, just south of Marathon, which is only about 10-15 miles south of where I usually stay with my sister. Sounds like bit in the arm. They said by reef shark, which would make sense. I mean, you're down there swimming in those reefs, and Probably a territorial deal with a reef shark, doesn't want you by its reef, so he ends up getting bit in the elbow. Didn't sound like it was anything major, but I mean, you know, a hat is not worth taking the chance. And I mean, that's cold water anyway. Maybe not cold, but it's work. That's a lot of work to save a hat. I mean, I don't go swimming because it's physical. You know, if I want to do something physical, I'll go golfing. So that's the story of that. George Grant that lost his life over his hat that blew off of the steamer Waikato back in 1904. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you'll visit the store. Go ahead and take a look at everything we have. I'll put the links for those down in the bottom. And remember, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.